Hello, trendsetters, and special hello to regular intrepid viewers. Now, first off the rank, of course, is the Supreme Court ruling against Colorado being able to take the Yeti off the ballot, right? Now, don't panic. I'm sure I'm not alone in saying it was a genuine consideration to not let the one-off states take people off the ballots in these divisive times. You can imagine where that would end up. Okay. But here's the kicker. The reason they couldn't go there is because although Colorado at two levels of its legal system proved to its satisfaction that the Yeti engaged in insurrection, right? That insurrection, we all saw that one. But it hasn't been proved because Jack Smith's case has not gone ahead, which will undoubtedly prove it. So they're the hold-up for the reason that they can now hide behind the skirts of not having a ruling on the insurrection. So please don't think for a nanosecond I am defending the Supreme Court. Just this judgment in this context. Absolutely foul, is it not? Not the ruling, like I said, but the climate. Yeah. Meanwhile, CPAC's been going off, and apparently members of the Republican Party took it upon themselves, the MAGA files, to ask anyone who supported Nikki Haley to stand in the middle of the room and then aggressively, verbally booed and attacked them. I mean, talk about the Valley of the Hyenas. You know, it's just beyond disgusting. All right, so let's go here. I will get back to the Supreme Court and the big judgment, the one that matters. Okay, first, Truth Social. Now, Trump is desperate for the money from the merger of Truth Social. Meanwhile, since Friday, its share price has halved. But there are two people who are challenging him who actually started the mechanics of Truth Social, and that's Andy Latinsky and Wes Moss. Let's see what's going to happen with that. The Truth Social merger. Truth Social. Truth Social, guys. Will he get the money for this stuff? Oh, not looking so fabulous. Look, I think with these cards, just check this out. In the middle is, it won't be enough money to help him in any significant way. The problem for him is he and his ever-deteriorating team can't stave all this stuff off forever. They're just so used to it. They're not used to having to limp along in the snow. Trump, all his working life, has refused to pay bills, has inflated his wealth, has done this stuff that we know over and over. And he's got away with it. But it's starting to all collide here. They do get the temperance card. So there could be some negotiation going on with these guys, and something may come out in the wash. Their case is quite strong, right? I think there could be something, this is about children, nostalgia, etc. It could be something about the Yeti's offspring, the demon spawn, are somehow involved, right, particularly Don Jr. and Eric. Ivanka has sort of evaporated, hasn't she, really? So it could drag them into it. But there's not going to be any money anytime soon. You know, this is going to have to play out. So if he's thinking this is, you know, his number one pit stop for his money worries, you'd be wrong, pet. Yeah. So now something I'm much more personally concerned about. The ruling in the Fani Willis case, has she breached professional standards, etc., etc.? Judge is McAfee. He'll rule apparently within 2 weeks. He's been a very fair justice until now. I'm sure if he was kicking back in his entertainment room at home, chowing down on Maltesers. Do you have Maltesers in America? I don't know. They're chocolate-coated candy things. God, what a nightmare. What a nightmare. So let's have a look at the outcome of the Fani Willis and Nathan Wade fiasco. The moral of the story is don't bonk your co-workers when a case is in the works. Funny. But let's pray and see what's going to happen with that outcome. Oh, please. Sometimes you dread reading the cards, right? Look, here, they could be worse. Here, this could be some form of suspended judgment with the hangman, because I think he's a real judge, which makes him distinct from so many others that are running around the circuit. Some sort of suspended judgment. This, I think, is the, how will I put this? This is the wheeling and dealing behind the scenes that I think Fani and Nathan Wade did. Personally, I don't think who you sleep with should impact on your professional life in any way, but that's not what the story is here. So there were some sort of things in the background. I think she's been profoundly upset by this, and I think she's angriest at herself. Why did I go there? Just because he was a super smug. But the actual reading suggests McAfee's going to stay in the best interest for the American public, higher American good here, is for this case to go ahead. So I think there'll be something a bit gnarly, but ultimately it will go ahead, and all that work she's done will pay off. I hope I'm right. Please. So that'll be in the next couple of weeks. Lots is happening as March accelerates, isn't it? Let me look at my notes here. What's our next port of call? Okay. Oh, yeah. A quick look, that's all I want, is a quick look at what's his face, Mark Meadows. He's run out of options. I've kept an eye on this for you, but let's just have an update now. The appeals have been exhausted. Mark Meadows. So while I'm shuffling, Australia, thank you for writing in the comments. Australia is suffering hideous fires, as is Texas. And apparently there's a nuclear facility in Texas that is threatened. That's never good. But what we need, I digress, what we need in Australia and Canada and everywhere else that has major bushfires every year, let's not pretend Those Elvis helicopters that drop huge amounts of water when a fire just starts. It's always good to put a fire out when it's small, you know. So there should be a fleet of Elvis helicopters in Australia and other places. They're very expensive, but so are nuclear submarines. We need more Elvis helicopters, not nuclear submarines, you know. And then when fires get really bad anywhere, we can send each other more Elvises. What's the plural of Elvis? Elvises. Anyway, we all need them, not more weapons of war. However, moving on to Mark Meadows, run out of appeals. Will he flip? I'd be amazed if he didn't. Let's look at, it's more, what is the extent of the flipping? You know, because as soon as their back is to the wall, they spill their guts. So let's look. Let's put it this way. Will Mark Meadows' testimony be dangerous for the Getty? Mark Meadows' testimony. And of course, it's state, meaning no appeal. Oh, let's have a look here. The obstacle. Oh, geez. Oh, wow. Now, I think there's confusion about how much he knows and how much he's prepared to give. Because although he was the right-hand man and there for everything, and that's what he should be charged with apart from anything else, there's some confusion about what he can offer. I'm thinking that could be because the Yeti never plays by the rules. So when things are supposed to be run by various positions, big decisions, the Trump I'm talking about now never complied, including internationally, where the translator wasn't allowed in, there were no notes taken, and at that point, the Pentagon capitulated when they should have actually stood up to him right there back in 2000, whenever. So there's some confusion over how much he will give and how much impact it will have. The problem is, this is the very complacent and smug merchant here. I think what happens when you live in a rarefied atmosphere and you only talk with people who talk your language? I don't think Meadows has appreciated until this point how deep in the doo-doo is he. He's sort of been protected from it. Justice is coming, and in comes galloping, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, death card. And I'll point out this is a very busy card and my camera isn't the best. So let me point out here. Death tramples the king. The crown has fallen off. So I think he has significant testimony. I think this confusion could be how much wheeling and dealing is there. Because I think he'll give significant testimony, he better change his phone number and other details because MAGA will be after him. You know how they turn on everyone except, well, no exceptions really. He's their idol and they worship idols, you know. So he'll be out in the cold from this point on for the rest of his professional life. So I think he has got things to say. I think he will say them, and I think it won't be good. So from my perspective, and I assume yours, that's a good news story. So we deserve some good news. Now, in other news, I shouldn't smile, shouldn't laugh ever again. Missouri, it's not law yet, but they're thinking about passing a law that pregnant women cannot divorce their husbands. I mean, what medieval backwater are these states, you know? And this is my worry with Nikki Haley, because she's ultra-conservative too. She has the bizarre position that abortion should be illegal because her husband was adopted. I get it. You know, if her husband's mother had a choice, she might have chosen things, but actually you wouldn't have met him, Nikki. So because of this very personal thing, she's prepared to deny the rights of 180 million American women without a thought, another thought, no. She also will cut Medicaid, Social Security, everything. She is lethal. However, in this particular window of history, she's the only one who's in a position and brave enough to say critical things about he who shall not be named. So short term, I wish her well in her endeavours. She's just won DC. That, of course, is not a typical state for obvious reasons. But hopefully it'll keep her in the race. Don't worry. We all, I think, share the idea that the Yeti will be the nominee. Of course he'll be the nominee. There should be a 14th Amendment about not having Yetis on the ballot. That'd get around a lot of these issues. But anyway, so short term, she can be useful. We'll have other conversations 2 years from now if she's still around and she's gearing up for 2028. So let it just go on the record. I think she's extremely bad news for any sort of real progressive stuff for women. Shouldn't even be progressive. It should be basic human rights, but let's not have that discussion now. So where was I? Raving on. So much for Nikki Haley. Oh, I know what I wanted to read on. March 25th, the Stormy Daniels case, which I will remind you is about campaign violations. And the judge is Judge Merchant. And he made a comment yesterday because it's the early stage building up to that trial that starts in a couple of weeks. And Trump's team laid out all their gobbledygook, and then they laid it all out again, and he asked them questions and they spewed back this inane rubbish again. And he stopped them and said, "Can you please tell me something you haven't said earlier?" So I love that as a sign. Okay, so let's have a look. They've already tried not to have Stormy and Michael Cohen on the stand. Well, really, not the victim of the crime and not the person who committed the crime. Let's keep them out of the courtroom. How imbecile. Anyway, that's failed. It's going ahead. Let's have a look at the energy around this trial, right? Because we'll be keeping a very close eye on this. Let's have a look. Oh, I loved a comment by a viewer. We were talking about who'll be the vice president, and a viewer suggested maybe he'll auction off the job. Don't you love that? If we say it out loud, he might do it. It'd be bliss, wouldn't it? And what would the GOP do? Nothing. Remember, you know, the sale of pardons, Rudy Giuliani and all of that. He'll stop at nothing, you won't you? I think it's not a joke. He will be selling off the vice presidency. Oh my God, spare us everything that's holy. Oh God, please spare us. But it could happen. Okay, so let's have a look. I want the energy around Judge Merchant and this case. Who's walking away? What's that about? That's it. Oh, good. Good. Oh, like a bit of meat in this. Well, okay. Now, I think this could well be, there'll be a dispute with his legal team, que sorpresa, and whoever his legal team is now will not make it through the trial. I think this judge, remember, if you're learning tarot, don't get caught up with gender. I think this judge is very fair and will be quite compassionate in the sense of understanding that this case has huge ramifications for the country. I think with this will be concessions the judge will make on some level as the trial unfolds. Things will be asked. This could be asked by the defence team or the prosecutors at this stage. It's not clear to me. But this judge is very reasonable, but also no nonsense. I think they'll get quite desperate by the end, right? And this card, the Four of Wands, can symbolize the White House. So I think this will have implications. This case will have implications for anyone in the White House going forward in terms of campaign violations. I'm quite liking that. So before we finish, I said I'd come back to the Supreme Court. Again, if you're not used to tarot, you go, why do we read on this stuff over and over? Tarot tends to be very good at providing the atmosphere around a question or an issue, but timing is always a struggle. So all of us as professional readers keep looking at things because, as we know in real life, the landscape changes. What seems a slam dunk becomes really complicated. Things that look really super gnarly suddenly are resolved for good, bad, or ugly. So that's why we read on these same things often. Okay, so now I'm going to look generically at the Supreme Court judgment that really matters. So these craven hacks that wear the robes in the Supreme Court, I'm sorry if there's 2 or 3 left who are normal judges, but you're outnumbered. The thing is it all rests on this ruling. They hear oral arguments at the end of April, 22nd of April or whatever, and then we don't know when they'll rule. They could rule before the summer or not. This is a judgment that should have been made 8 weeks after the insurrection. I can't think of another country that had such an invasion of the halls of Congress, people smearing excrement on the walls, threats, very plausible threats to members of Congress, including the Vice President. And let's wait till the next election to answer these questions. Oh, maybe we can't because it's time for the next election. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway, here we are. Here we are. And we've gone through every inch of it together, intrepid viewers. It's important not to lose faith. Okay. They're ruling. This is just a general take for now. Woof. Woof. Oh my word. Whose tower? The John. I'm going to leave it there because really. Okay. Now, this is the critical moment. And I'm hoping from these other cards this will be a supreme loss for the Yeti. They'll struggle with this, the Supreme Court, because some of them, let's just say, are less committed to the ultimate best interests of the country than others. So there'll be lots of behind the scenes stuff. I think it'll be quite cataclysmic, really. It almost answers every question that should have been. But the crossroads, and it'll be the crossroads for MAGA. It'll be the crossroads for independent voters. It'll be the crossroads for America going forward. But let me say here, even though this is dramatic, ultimately dramatic, it's important to look back. Johnny encourages this, Johnny from Taro's Apprentice, to look at where the tower started. So even if I'm rose-colored glasses here and this ruling is against, if you trace back the tower, it still leads America to the crossroads. So it could be that Jack Smith's case is still important as opposed to them making crystal clear ruling, right? And out and about. So hang on in, guys. And of course, let me know your coping techniques. I love that in the comments, because with all the gaslighting and craziness out there, I know a lot of you are employing techniques. And if you're not, you need to. This is going to be the longest year and the shortest year. And we've got this weird thing going on with time. On the one hand, it's really compressed and accelerated. On the other hand, it seems like 100 years since the escalator moment. So you need good coping strategies to keep yourself in tip-top condition for 2024. All the best. Bye.